let's raise the big questions. Does Gaza aid reassure the Arab world? Let's look at India's position closely. India-Israel ties, do they end up unnerving the Arab world? Has the Modi government struck the right balance now? What role should India be playing going ahead? Joining me now, Dr. Wael Awad is senior journalist who's been tracking West Asia for years. Kanwal Sibal, former foreign secretary, is with us. And KC Singh, former secretary, Ministry of External Affairs. Let me come to you, Kanwal Sibal, first. Do you believe that the Modi government has struck a balance between expressing solidarity with Israel and now giving aid to the Palestinians? Or are we in danger in this diplomatic tightrope walk of falling off the rope?
I don't think so. We have expressed solidarity with Israel on the terrorism issue. And we have expressed solidarity with the Palestinians because there is the larger question of a two-state solution, Palestinian rights, and the brutalization of the Palestinians all these decades, and what is happening on the West Bank, the expansion of settlements, and of course the violence by the settlers, by the extreme right-wing Israelis. So I don't think the two are contradictory to each other, because we don't accept terrorism, and we also have reservations about the disproportionate action by Israel currently to destroy large swaths of Gaza and force evacuation of 1.5 million people from the north of Gaza to the south, with all the humanitarian consequences that follow. And therefore, Prime Minister Modi and government have taken the step to channel humanitarian aid to Palestine, which is sorely needed, but this is a drop in the ocean. As was rightly said by the ambassador, before this thing erupted, there were 400 or 500 trucks going daily through Rafah. And now if you have 20 or 30 trucks going for 1.5 million people who are evacuated and otherwise who are suffering because of shortage because of end of water supplies and everything else, food, fuel, this is not going to meet the situation. But yes, it is a gesture government of India has made. Finally, with regard to balancing, every country is trying to balance in a different way. The United States also, while fully supporting Israel, has cautioned Israel about not flying into a rage and committing the mistakes the United States did after 9/11, and also playing their role in facilitating the opening of the Gaza, of the Rafah border. Other countries also have their own way of balancing the situation, supporting Israel, but at the same time supporting the Palestinian cause. I think we have done what we ought to do in this current situation. And it's not a question of balancing. It is actually doing the right thing by way of both sides.
Right.
On one side, support them against this terrible terrorist attack. And I'm very surprised that the ambassador of Palestine absolutely refuses to acknowledge that Hamas has done a terror attack. In fact, Hamas has been governing this territory. It has popular support. It may have declined over the years, but it has popular support. You can't totally distinguish between Hamas pretending there's a foreign kind of a occupation of the West Bank, of the
right. I get your point, but you're saying we've done the right thing. KC Singh, have we done the right thing, or is this a diplomatic tightrope walk? We started by expressing solidarity. The Prime Minister spoke to Benjamin Netanyahu. There were some reports that the Arab world wanted India to do more in terms of focusing on the plight of the Palestinian people who were being bombed. Do you believe, therefore, there's been a course correction?
Rajiv, we discussed it on your program the day it began on October 7. And I was saying that day that Prime Minister's statement was giving it a one-sided slant and seemed to be a deviation from the traditional Indian position. Now, if the Ministry of External Affairs had come out immediately after that with their statement, when they took a number of days to come out with that statement, to balance it and say that there are two sides to it, we won't be asking these questions.
No, but with due regard, Mr. KC Singh, let's be fair. Prime Minister Modi on the first day was responding to a horrific terror attack. Now, you don't expect him to then balance it out with Palestinian rights on day one itself.
Well, the Chinese did it. The others did it. Yes, you can come out. No, I'm saying Prime Minister could have said what he said, but the Ministry of External Affairs didn't need to remain silent for 4, 5, 6 days after that. That is why the questions were raised. That has there been a shift in India's stand. Then once the Ministry of External Affairs statement came, they've been rectifying it, and we've gone back to more or less the old position. And I'm very glad that the humanitarian assistance has gone today. But this is not the end of the story, because siege is not about to end. Israelis are making exploratory forays. They've been held back by the Americans till now because there are three problems in this. The problems are that, and I think President Biden going there, he summed it up. He, basically backed the Israelis very strongly, but he also was simultaneously saying that I understand your anger, but don't let your anger consume you. He says that's the mistake the Americans made after 9/11. And they paid with lives in Afghanistan, Iraq, and really didn't achieve anything. So what he's telling is right. What the Americans are doing are three things. They're trying to get the civilians out of harm's way. And that's why they held the Israelis back. So almost 600,000 people out of 1.4 million in northern Gaza have moved to southern Gaza. Then they got the southern route opened so that the humanitarian assistance coming there, the people will gravitate there. So create an area where civilians gravitate towards. And then you open the ground, because they realize Americans ultimately can't stop Israel from going in. Because Israel has said elimination of Hamas is their absolute goal. Now, the mistake with that is that you can eliminate some of the leaders. The top leaders are sitting in Qatar. But you will radicalize the youth further, because Hamas is not a group of people. It's a movement. And a movement does not get killed. Like, Taliban are back in Afghanistan. The Americans went to finish them. So therefore, that is what and then the third problem is the northern front. So the Americans have brought in their navy. They're putting pressure to see that Hezbollah doesn't jump in. And as long as it remains a single, they'll probably give some time to Israel to go in and try getting the hostages out. In the meanwhile, we have just seen 2 hostages being given up by Hamas. They will not give up more hostages because that's their human shield.
Can I just stop you for a moment? That hostage question is critical, Dr. Wael Awad, because even when I asked this to the Palestinian ambassador, he wasn't willing to give a commitment on what happens to the hostages. And therefore, while India is out there at the moment providing humanitarian aid, the Palestinians' moral high ground will not exist if the hostages are killed. If the hostages are killed, including some American citizens, that will also lead to anger and outrage again. So do you believe that that is the very minimal that will have to be done to try and de-escalate this conflict?
Well, the minimum can be done at the moment, the cessation of all hostilities, because there is already more than 14 of the hostages have died because of the Israeli bombardment. And in fact, Hamas have also offered 2 free out of no conditions, more hostages to release, but they were refused by the Israeli government. So I don't see the hostages issue is seriously avoiding our
no, but Dr. Awad, there are 222 hostages according to the Israeli Defense Force at the moment with Hamas. Unless they are released, even in batches, how do you then expect countries like India to play a role in promoting Palestinian interests? For a large part of the world, there is no distinction between Palestine and Hamas.
Rajdeep, I think we must all understand that India is not a colonized society culture. India is a civilized country and understand the depth of the problem in Palestine after I'm listening to 2 distinguished guests at your panel, and I understand the position of India consistently have been supporting justice and freedom for the Palestinian, a 2-state solution. It's nothing new to that. What I'm trying to say here, what for the last 75 years, we have been seeing Israel attacking the Palestinians, uprooting their villages, kicked out 750,000 Palestinians in 1948, and have taken all their territories. Now, the Palestinians, what they have done, they have changed the paradigm of the game. They have twisted. This time they attacked inside their occupied territories inside Israel. So they have taken hostages, and there are 10,000 hostages of Palestinians inside Israel jail, lavishing there. There are people who, according to Human Rights Watch, according to RISC, ask any agency in the world, they tell you there are more than 2,000 people there. For decades they are there. There is no law why they have been detained. No advocate can go. Every Palestinian will tell you. I'm not here to defending Hamas or defend anybody. I'm just trying to say here that hostages have been used in wars because they wanted to exchange. They have been doing it.
Right.
Israel attacked Hamas, attacked Gaza Strip 5 times. This is the 6th time. It's nothing new. I mean, I covered the region extensively. I interviewed Arafat. I interviewed Mahmoud Abbas. I asked them when Netanyahu was in power. They never expected anything from him. Rabin, Prime Minister of Israel, was killed because he killed the Oslo Agreement Netanyahu, and his right-wing supporter killed Rabin. His wife, widower of Rabin, she said it on TV of the Israelis. How you want to tell me that this kind of government is seriously willing to have a peace with the Palestinians?
Okay.
They are obliterating Palestine. Even your aid or rest of the world aid will not reach, because there will be no Palestinian left to survive on the genocide in a concentration camp they have created for them.
You know, Kawal Sibal, I've been playing through the show also over the years how India's stand has changed. When Jawaharlal Nehru, and I'll look at that, when Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister of India, he was very clear that India needed to stand by Palestine. It became a human rights issue. It was seen in a way as one of the fallouts of colonialism. The RSS and the BJP over the years stood by Israel. By 1992, we have Narasimha Rao becoming Prime Minister. India recognizes Israel. Before that, Indira Gandhi, very close to Arafat, India becomes the first country to officially recognize the PLO at the time. An embassy office was set up here in 1980. And now we have Prime Minister Modi, who is seen to have built a strong relationship with Mr. Netanyahu. Can India really play any kind of a mediatory role? The Prime Minister is ringing up Amman, he's ringing up other Arab capitals. On the Arab street, does India carry any weight anymore? Or is there a fear that we have to balance the concerns of the Arab street and the fact that we've got strong relations with Saudi Arabia and UAE with what's happening in Israel?
Look at the situation realistically. When India was fully supporting the PLO and Yasser Arafat, were we able to resolve the Palestinian question? Not at all. In fact, Arafat chose to go to the West and sign the Oslo Accords and left out altogether the non-aligned movement. We put it all his eggs in the Western basket. Mm-hmm. Point is that India alone cannot do anything very much because big powers are involved. The United Nations, look at the helplessness of the United Nations, look at the helplessness of the UN Secretary General. What has happened to him? He's standing at the Rafah border, over supervising the flow of trucks into Gaza. Is this the role of the UN Secretary General? The United States is a very critical player, even though their power has diminished in this region. Mm-hmm. They're being challenged by Russia as well as China even more so. These are the countries, the powers that have to play a significant, important, critical role in bringing the two sides together. The United States has walked away from the two-state solution. They opened their embassy in Jerusalem. They seized all assistance to the Palestinian Authority. And when it comes to the Arab world, look, Saudi, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan, they have recognized Israel. Saudi Arabia was on the point of recognizing Israel. Mm-hmm. We had ITU2, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. So what role has the principal Arab states, the Gulf states, played in the Palestinian question? So why the burden on India when the Arab countries themselves were very keen to normalize with Israel?
Good point, Mr. Sibal, which I want to take to you, K.C. Singh, because you've served in the area. The Arab world seems at least privately split. Publicly, they may all have united today on the Palestinian issue. Privately, there are divisions between the more moderate states and the more radicalized states. How does India navigate what is a very difficult situation? Should India just stay out and keep providing humanitarian aid but do little beyond that at the moment? Is that the best way out?
No, you keep your channels open to both sides. Prime Ministers today, I believe, spoken to King Abdullah. So we have a certain degree of credibility in the region. But yes, Ms. Sibal is absolutely correct that we are not, we don't have the ability to play the role of an active peacemaker. And secondly, do remember that in 1967, the Arab-Israeli war, that is when Israel occupied all this area, West Bank and so on and so forth, there was no peace possible till 1973. Even Kissinger didn't step in. Only when the Egyptians were able to cross the bar-left line and inflict some damage on Israel, then Kissinger realized that when two guys are fighting, there's a point at which you cannot intervene. Israel will get their revenge. At this moment, they are not going to listen. At best, the Americans can calibrate it. They can delay them. They can get the civilians out of the way. They can keep Hezbollah out so that it doesn't spin out of control. They can threaten Iran that Iran doesn't actively come in. They can allow Israel to bomb the airports of Syria so that military help doesn't come in. So they're isolating and saving the civilians. But they will give probably Israel 1 or 2 weeks to go in and try to kill as many so-called Hamas leaders as they can. But then after that, even America cannot support them because the civilians start getting killed and too much blood is spilled. Then they'll be able to reel them back. But at the moment, I think even the conservative Arab countries would like to get rid of Hamas. So they would like Israelis to go in and at least decapitate them.
Can I therefore take that to Dr. Awad in conclusion? Do you believe that the Arab world wants Hamas to be strengthened? Or is there a distinction between leadership and the Arab street? Leaderships are skeptical or even fearful of Hamas. The Arab street is treating them as liberators. Is that the worry also?
It's not a worry because every Palestinian who is defending his land, he has the right according to UN Charter. That is for sure.
But he does not have the right to kill innocent Israeli civilians in the process.
No. Any civilian kills, any killing of a human being. Remember, Genesis said, if you cannot create, you cannot kill. Let us be more practical on this. What is I'm trying to say is, Rajiv, I think you should put in the highlight in your next program, it is not Hamas which they are after. It is Hezbollah in Lebanon. It is Iran which they are after. The American is finding their warships in the Mediterranean. They are already filled islands in Greece with the warships. Israel having F-16, F-15, F-35. They are bombing, they are killing. They wanted to provoke the street of the Arab so they can pressurize their government to participate in a war where Israel can expand and create a greater Israel from Euphrates to Nile. Remember, if you go to the Knesset of the Israelis, you will see at the gate of the Knesset, they have said the border of Israel is from Euphrates to Nile. So if that is the aim and objective, it's become a fight of extensionists, either we or you. Okay. Unless and until we have a two-state solution, there is no question of peace in the Middle East.
Okay, let me leave it there. I appreciate all my guests joining us on our top talking point. It is a tough situation which India in particular will have to navigate with caution in the weeks ahead. Kamal Sibal, KC Singh, Wail Awad, appreciate you joining me here on the news today.